I work here at Fitness Sports, and I've ran my whole life pretty much.
I'm Emily Reese. I work at Fitness Sports Ames. I am also a mental health counselor, and I'm an individual in eating disorder recovery.
I was a long distance runner in college, really enjoyed it. I think I found my true love for running, really fell in love with the process, and just really stuck with it. Found what I liked, what I didn't like. Really loved the atmosphere there. The coaches were amazing. The team was amazing, and it was just a really good culture.
My experience with running began in middle school. I was always kind of an athletic child, but primarily stuck to basketball and other court sports. I began running track in middle school and throughout high school, and then took a hiatus from it as I worked on developing my relationship with food and movement and getting into a place of comfort and recovery. I moved to the West Coast then after graduating college and kind of refell in love once I began trail running out there. Returned to Iowa and have kind of continued that love for trail running, but have made a bit of a transition into road running as it's not quite as accessible, but have gotten connected to the fitness sports and the running community here in Ames and absolutely love it.
When my eating disorder really came about was probably towards the beginning of college. In high school, I always was really passionate about nutrition. It was something I really like to focus on. I'm definitely like a very perfectionist. Like I love to eat right, sleep right, do all the right things to make sure that you're optimizing your training. But I think once I hit college, I think maybe there was just more pressure that I put on myself. There's also more people that you see and people that you follow, and I think as females in sport, you see just like body image, that is portrayed for long distance runners. So I didn't have that build. I was a sprinter in high school. So I think just seeing that transition and trying to adapt was something that I struggled with.
My recovery and my experience with an eating disorder and my relationship with food is kind of twofold. I initially developed an eating disorder in middle school. At a point in my life when I experienced an injury and wasn't able to participate in sport anymore. And so kind of shifted focus on body and movement and kind of went to focusing more on food and a little bit of the control in that aspect. Did well in recovery throughout the end of college, in the first few years of my 20s, and then had a relapse later on in my life. So at that point, again, kind of recognized similar patterns in myself of making a shift of increased control over food, increased focus on food and body, noticing that my relationship with movement at that point came less from a place of joyful movement and more of a place where I was moving for the intentional purpose of shaping body, of becoming more competitive in things, and kind of really noticed that there was a significantly reduced enjoyment for the movement that I was engaged in.
I think college was really the peak where it just kind of controlled over me for probably about 3 years. Because distance running is so different. You need to feel your body so differently, and I think I took that a little extreme. I had a lot of anxiety around food, a lot of anxiety around racing, which kind of hurt because I loved running and I loved competing. So it was really hard to work through a lot of those emotions, but ultimately it took time, and it took time to kind of build a positive relationship with food after college.
Especially with the relapse piece, there was a part of me like deep down that knew that there was something going on, but I didn't want to admit it, or I didn't want to recognize, or was in denial about like how significant the experience was.
I did get smaller. I did lose a lot of weight. I did lose my period for 3 years, and as a female, that's not healthy. But I didn't know it was. I didn't educate myself going into it. I also kind of internalized a lot of it, so it's really hard to come out with that to others and to kind of work through it when you're trying to work through it yourself.
I did really well at hiding it. I think with that knowledge of like, I know what's going on, it can't be that serious, but I'm gonna try to keep it a secret so that I can continue with what I'm doing. And I think that that's like a common theme within eating disorders, is that thriving in secrecy, and using the denial piece there for it to thrive a little bit more.
It's crazy to reflect on, because I think a lot of the times you can just, I say get caught up in it because you don't truly realize like what's going on until you're out of it. Like I can reflect now and openly talk about it and be someone who's like, this is what happened, this is why it happened. But if I, like back then, if I would have like even tried to acknowledge it, it would have been like really hard because you don't see it.
When I was younger, absolutely, I was in complete denial of what was happening. I was very, very fortunate to have teachers and coaches that had actually their own experience with eating disorders, and were able to kind of recognize patterns and behaviors that were going on.
I also had people close to me who saw things and said things to me just out of concern, my parents as well. So just having them step up and kind of say that was really nice, because I think it really led me to open up about everything, and then move forward with it.
It definitely took friends that were close to me, coworkers that were close to me, their kind of repeated recognition and expression of concern, and really pushing me to seek support, to kind of get me into the place in my recovery journey that I am now. I think like I still have moments where I'm still very actively in my own recovery journey, and so I am very intentional about movement and food still at this point. I think in my recovery, have recognized just how important running and movement in general are to my like sense of self, my overall well-being, my mental clarity, my ability to process all of the emotions that kind of come up in therapy or with my dietitian. But I know that in order to be able to run and be competitive in the way that I want to be, that I need to also be fueling my body. And so it's been super helpful for me to honestly like take a break from running at points in my recovery and realize how much I miss it and how intentional I need to be about appropriately fueling my body so that I not only can run, but also can run at a level of competitiveness that I want to be able to run.
I primarily struggled in college, and to this day, it's not perfect. I still have moments where those thoughts or, those things that you practiced in your mind or ritualized for so long just kind of creep back in. But I would just say to continue to work on your relationship with yourself and with running and food separately, because it's not something that should be invested in so strictly because of like identity.
I would probably advise like reaching out to somebody that you trust as soon as possible, and that can be a coworker, a friend, a teacher, a classmate, a peer, a partner, therapist, online support group. Just verbalizing what's going on and kind of like getting it out there and recognizing that, okay, this is something that I have a concern about and I think I need help with, I think is one of the most important things.
Inviting people in your circle is so important, and I know I've mentioned that a few times, but I would say that's the number one thing that finally got me out of the habits that I thought were helping me, but were actually hurting me, and it kind of led me to where I am now, to being recovered, having a better relationship with food and running, and being able to enjoy all different aspects of my life.